Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Darian and today we're going to be talking about all the books that I've read so far in 2026. So initially my plan was to try to do quarterly wrap-ups like I tried to do last year. I only successfully did it for the first and second quarters and then I just kind of fell off it. So this year told myself I was gonna do it and then suddenly it was mid-April and I still needed to film my first quarterly wrap up. And I was starting to get stressed because I figured by the time I posted it, it would be probably near the end of April and I would only be talking about the books I read Monday, January to March. And I didn't think anyone would care. And then I realized that I could just do whatever I wanted. And so far this year I've read 20 books and I thought that was a nice number of books to talk about. So instead of this being a quarterly wrap up, it's just all the books I've read so far this year from the beginning of January until this moment in time. What is today? April 21st. So it's kind of almost a quarterly wrap up, but I think this is just how I'm gonna do wrap ups this year. I think it'll work better without having sort of a time limit. So hopefully that's okay with you guys, but I think that's just what is gonna work for me. Before we get started, I need some energy. I don't know if this is a new flavor of Alani or just new to me, but I haven't seen this before. It is the blue slush flavor. Very good. So we're gonna try it together. That'll do. So yes, like I said, I read 20 books so far this year. My average rating has been a 3.7, which I guess is not too bad. It could be better, but I feel like 3.7 is pretty good so far. I've had 1 DNF and 3 5-stars so far. So I'm just gonna talk about everything in the order that I read them. So first we'll start with January. Also, of the 20 books I read so far this year, I only own 3 of them. I need to get better at reading from my own TBR because it's not like, I mean, it would be fine if I only owned like 50 books, but I own a lot more than that I have not read. So I need to get better. I mean, most of my books have come from the library, so obviously it's good to support your library, but I need to read more from my own TBR. So anyways, without further ado, let's just get started. So the first book that I finished this year was Christmas Tree Farm by Laurie Gilmore. I did start this near the end of 2025 and then I finished it. I think it was even the first day of 2026. The second day, excuse me. But yeah, this is part of the Dream Harbor series and it is the 3rd book. I have been reading this series in order and also I need to read them in the season that they're set in. So this obviously takes place during the winter around Christmas time. I thought this was fine. I think it's my least favorite of the series so far. It follows these 2 characters. What are their names? I don't remember their names. And it kind of has a grumpy sunshine dynamic, but the guy is the sunshine and the girl is grumpy. And you know, he teaches her to come out of her shell. She's new to Dream Harbor, which is this small town, very like Gilmore Girls-esque. And I gave this a 3.25. I really like just like listening to these books on audio and just getting through them quickly. And the next one takes place in spring, so I have to read that one soon, but I really don't have much to say about this book. It was fine, you know, I don't regret reading it. If you want something quick and cozy, then I recommend it during Christmas time, I guess. The next book I read was Broken Country by Claire Leslie Hall. This book this is probably like the wildest reading experience I had so far this year and honestly probably for the whole year, and I feel like I'm the only one who is reacting to this book in this way because I'm seeing reviews and people are like, oh yeah, it was really good, or it was really emotional, or I didn't really like it, like very like whatever, but I had like such a visceral reaction to this book. You're essentially following, I'm not gonna remember characters' names, I'm so sorry, but you're essentially following this woman who is kind of in a love triangle. When she was younger, she had this like whirlwind first romance with this guy named Gabriel. I remember that. And then they broke up because of a misunderstanding, but they were like teenagers. And then she ended up marrying this other guy that was also in love with her that she didn't really like in the same way that she liked Gabriel, but he was like the safe choice. I think his name is Frank. So her and Frank ended up getting married and then she hasn't heard from Gabriel since until the present day. Gabriel's farm, I think, is close to our main character and Frank's farm, and so they end up reconnecting. But also this is like a past timeline, and in the present timeline you know that there is a trial going on. You know that someone was killed, but you don't know who did it. You don't know anyone's involvement in it. So you kind of get snippets of the trial throughout the book. And I was so invested in this book. Like, was it the best book I've ever read? No, but I had to give it 4 stars because of how invested I was in it. There's, you know, that our main character and her husband Frank, they had a son who passed away a few years ago, and you find out about halfway through what happened. And when I tell you, you will never guess what happened. I was listening to this on my way to work and my mouth was open. I could not believe it. And then after that, I thought I knew everything I needed to know about these characters. I thought I knew whose side I was on. And then the end of the book, like when everything is revealed, everything is turned on its head. I had a full 180 on my opinions of these characters. Like, it was crazy. It was a wild reading experience. Maybe I'm the only one that feels that way, but like I'm still so stuck on the way that their son died. I can't believe it. So anyways, this was a crazy book, but I do recommend if you're looking for something like very interesting. I feel like, I don't know, I just thought it was very interesting, like toxic relationships, unlikable characters. You don't really know who to root for, and there isn't really anyone to root for because they all have their own flaws. So I don't know. I just had a great time with this one. The next book I read was Simply More by Cynthia Erivo. This is her memoir, I guess. It is very short. I listened to the audiobook in one day. It is like 200 pages, I think, and it is essentially about, I mean, obviously it's about her life, but I found this book kind of gave me nothing. I gave it 3.25 stars because I like Cynthia Erivo a lot and she narrates the audiobook, which I thought was great, but this felt very surface level. Like, it just kind of felt like she was giving advice to the reader about like, just like never give up, and like when you face adversity, just you can overcome it. Like, very surface level things to tell people. She has gone through a lot in her life, but I would have loved to hear more about her life and her time on Broadway and her time filming Wicked. And it was just such a short book, and I just really wanted more from it, so I ended up only giving it 3.25. The next book I read was The Loneliness of Sonia and Sunny by Kiran Desai, and this is a long book. It is almost 700 pages. It definitely doesn't look like it because the pages are Bible thin, but this essentially follows these two characters, Sonia and Sunny. They were both born in India and immigrated to America, and their parents try to set them up at the beginning of the book and it doesn't really work out. And then you kind of follow them throughout the book, their connection with each other as well as their families. That's a huge part of the book. And I thought this book had so many good things to say about immigration, especially people immigrating to America. I just thought it was way too long. I really would have loved if the book focused more on Sonia and Sunny and less on all the side characters, because like Sonia and Sunny were the heart of the book and I just didn't care about what the side characters were doing like day to day. I just wish we stayed focused on Sonia and Sunny and how they were navigating their lives in America and going back to India and their relationship with each other. I don't know. I just thought the book was way too long. So I gave it a 3-star because I still think it's a good book. It was just too long in my opinion. And then the last book I read in January was Woodworking by Emily St. James. Is that the author's name? Emily St. James. And this follows two characters. The first one is named Erica, and she is a trans woman. She is a teacher, but she hasn't come out yet. And so she presents as a man when she's at work, and she is really like having a hard time coming to terms with her gender identity and just accepting herself. And she has a new student in her class named Abigail, I'm pretty sure, who is also a trans girl, but she is very openly trans. She's very proud to be trans, and Erica really admires that about her. And the two end up striking this very interesting relationship. And like, I want to make it clear, it is not romantic in any way. I don't think it is inappropriate. I think it's just someone who is so desperate to find someone that they can relate to, and then they do, and like, what do you do in that situation? I just really loved, this is a debut and I feel like it did read like a debut. Like, I don't know if the writing was amazing, but I am interested to see what else this author writes because I thought this was such a unique story. And I keep mentioning this, but there was one chapter in this book that's from like a third character's perspective, and it took my breath away. It was so like, oh my god. And I love how the author explored how the trans experience is different for every trans person. They're not a monolith. They go through the world in very different ways, and I just really thought it was interesting. I really fell in love with Abigail and Erica as characters, and I just wanted the best for them, and I thought it was great. It was funny but also sad. Like, it was a great balance between being witty but also like extremely heartfelt. I thought it was great. So yeah, I give this 4 stars. Highly recommend, especially the audiobook. I thought the audiobook was great because every time characters used someone's dead name because they didn't know Erica was trans, the audiobook would do like a scratching noise so that you didn't actually hear the dead name. I thought that was really cool. So yeah, I really like this. So now we're moving on to February and the first physical book that I own. So that is Heavenly Bodies by Amani Ariu. And I read this because I actually got to meet Amani Ariu in January. And I was only like halfway through the book by the time the event came along, but she was so lovely and she's just so pretty. She's so pretty. She's so sweet. Oh my god. I had a great time at that author event. It was just so much fun. I also got to reunite with my friend Erica, who I met online, and that was just really fun. So that was a really fun night, and I feel like I have such good memories attached to this book because of that. But the actual book, it is a romantasy about this girl named, her name's Alaria, I think? Alara, excuse me. And it's kind of hard to explain this plot. She ends up being captured by, okay, I'm just gonna read what it says. In a world ruled by the cruel and merciless stars, Alara has been cursed by fate. A prophecy promises she will fall for a star, but that it will kill them both. So when Ariette, I'm not actually sure how to say that. Is it Ariete or Ariette? Star of Wrath and War descends to wreak havoc on Alara's kingdom of night. She flees her home only to be captured by the neighboring Helios kingdom of light and falls straight into the arms of an enemy prince. So essentially her and this prince kind of start working together to bring down Ariette, but it's complicated by this prophecy that her and Ariette are supposedly supposed to fall in love and then kill each other. And then of course there's this romance between her and the prince, and they hate each other, but then they start to like each other. And the prince's name is Enzo, and he is a good boy. And I had so much fun with this book. I remember I read the last 100 pages, maybe like 150 pages in one sitting, and I was glued to the pages. You could not pry this book away from me. I was like, oh my god, what is happening? I was worried that this would be like, because I haven't read too many romantasy books, so I thought this would kind of be like very similar to other books I read, but I thought it had its own unique twist. And I just really, I mean, the ending, I did not know where it was going, and I'm very excited to continue the series. So yeah, this was a 4-star, and I just had so much fun with it. I thought it was great, and I can't wait to read Fallen Stars, which I also have. It's signed, and I'm just really excited to continue the series. So next I read probably what is the most surprising book of the year for me, and that is The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy by Megan Bannon. And I was not really planning on reading this at all. Like, I had heard of it, but it wasn't really on my radar. But I needed to read a book for Buzzwordathon, which had internal body parts on the cover, and this has bones on the cover. So I thought, why not? It seems like a cozy fantasy with a bit of romance. You know, I thought it would be pretty easy to read. Oh my god. This just kind of blew me away. It was just so sweet. Like, the romance in this book is exactly the type of romance I love, which is like enemies to lovers, but like they're not really enemies. It's more like hate to love, but they also begrudgingly respect each other. And then he falls first, and he is like very grumpy, and he's especially grumpy about the fact that he finds Merce so pretty. Like, it's just so cute. So essentially they work in the undertaking business. So I can't remember all the terms from this book, but Mercy works at this like funeral home essentially, where she prepares the dead bodies and sets them off to like their next life, you know? And Heart is the one that is trying to protect the areas because there's these like ghostly things called drudges, I think that's what they're called, who are trying to infect living bodies. and make them dead and essentially turn them into zombies. So Hart is like protecting the land, and he also brings back any bodies he finds to Mercy and her family's business, and they don't like each other, but they also love each other. Like, I don't know if I'm explaining it properly, but it's just so freaking cute. I love Hart so much. Oh my god. What a man he is. I really loved all the side characters. Oh my god, I just remembered I own this book now. I could have held it up. It's downstairs. I got it for my birthday. I read it before my birthday, and then my friend got me all the books in the series for my birthday. I forgot. Okay, so imagine I'm holding it up. But so for most of this book, I thought it would be my first 5-star of the year. I ended up giving it a 4.75. It just missed being a 5-star just because I found the fantasy elements a little bit confusing in this book. Like, me trying to explain the synopsis, that's how I felt reading the book. I was like, wait, what is, like, there's these zombie type things, like what is exactly happening? So I was a little confused. I mostly just cared about the romance. If it was just about the romance, it would have been 5 stars for sure. But yeah, the world building I thought was lacking just a little bit. So it was a 4.75, but oh my god, I'm so happy that I ended up reading this, and I doubt the other books in the series are gonna be as good, but I'm still excited to read them because I just loved this. I had so much fun. Okay, the next book I read was Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. This is my first Kennedy Ryan, and honestly, for some reason, her books never really interested me. I think I thought they would be way too smutty for me, and it turned out to be okay. Because I just cared so much about the characters. So this is the first book in this little trilogy of companion books. So this one follows Yasmin and, is it Josiah in this one? I think so. Yasmin and Josiah, who actually were married. They have 2 kids, but they divorced after experiencing a great loss. They were expecting another baby when they tragically lost the baby, and this happened around the time that Josiah's aunt, who was basically like a mother to him, also passed away. So they went through an extremely hard time, and they had a very hard time dealing with it together, and so they ended up getting divorced. And now it is, I think, 2 years after their divorce, and I don't know, they start to kind of reconnect. Well, I mean, they've been connected because they have children together, but you know, sparks are kind of flying again, and it was beautiful. Like, Kennedy Ryan's writing, it just like grabs your heart and just like squeezes it. Like, oh my god, I couldn't believe, and I listened to this and it was like got the cameras, like so much discussion about grief and just mental health, and oh my god, it just really, these characters felt so real. Like, I swear these are real people, and their emotions felt so real, and you know, they didn't just come back together and be like, yeah, everything's fine now. Like, they talked about their issues from the past, what they will work on going forward, also the complication that they were married and have kids together, and what coming back together, what that could mean for their family. So I really loved it, and the sex scenes were very good, okay? They were very nice, and also the audiobook is great. I love the narrators, and I just really love this. I think I gave it 4.5. Yes, 4.5. So not quite a 5 for me, but I really liked it. Josiah also, what a man. I just really loved it, and I love Kennedy Ryan, and I want to read everything she writes now. Next we have my one DNF of the year, and that is Immortal by Sulin Tan, and I definitely think this is going to be a soft DNF. I think I will try coming back to this again one day. I think I just read it at the wrong time. I honestly could not really tell you what it's about. I think I was 28% through or something like that, and for whatever reason, I was just not grasping the world building at all or anything about these characters. What I do remember is that our main character's uncle is essentially sacrificed for like the queen of this realm, and so, but she is also a queen, so she has to go to this different realm, like to the immortal realm for some reason. Or is she immortal and she goes to the mortal realm? It's something like that. Like, for whatever reason, I was not grasping this story at all. I kept, every time I picked it up, I was like, what? who are we talking about? What are we talking about? So I thought it was best to just put it down and come back to it at another time because I really love Sulin Tan's writing. I loved Daughter of the Moon Goddess, and so I think I could really like this book, but for whatever reason it was just not working for me at the time. Next I read Sea Scraper by Benjamin Wood. This is one of the Booker Prize nominees from 2025? Yeah, 2025. And this is a short novella, so I don't want to say too much about it, but you're following this character named Thomas, who I think is around like 20 years old or something, and essentially he is a sea scraper. So what he does is every morning, early in the morning, he gets up, he takes his horse, he goes to the beach, he scrapes the sand for shrimp, he sells the shrimp. That is how he lives with his mom, that's how they get by, but he has like this passion for music. He really wants to perform on his guitar at local bars. He has a crush on a girl. Like, he just kind of wants a different life for himself, but he is essentially supposed to provide for his mom until he meets a interesting character who kind of wants to use him for something. And for the first time in a long time, Thomas feels this kind of hope that there is a better life for him. So that's all I really want to say, but this was such an interesting book. I mean, it's so short, but I feel like it packed such a punch in it. Like, it definitely did not feel short to me, but in a good way. When I finished the book, I was like, there's no way all of that happened in like under 200 pages. My heart was racing at the end of the book. If you've read it, you know, like, oh my God. And the atmosphere of this book, like him on the beach, I feel like I could smell the sea while I was reading this book. I thought it was great. I thought it was great. I think I gave it a 4.25. So I really enjoyed it, and I'd be willing to read other books by this author. It's definitely a book that I come back to and think about a lot. So I don't know. I don't want to say too much because it's so short, but I thought it was great. Okay, next we have another book I own, and that is This a Cry for Help by Emily Austen. So if you're new here, Emily Austen is one of, if not my favorite author. I feel like it's safe to say she's my favorite author. I have given 3 of her books 5 stars and 1 of them 4 stars, but honestly, upon reread, that might be a 5-star. If you do the math, this was a 5-star, my first 5-star of the year. I also got a signed edition. I am just obsessed with Emily Austen. I have a Ratu inspired by We Could Be Rats, which is my favorite book of all time. Oh my God. I just love her writing. I wish one day I had the words to properly convey how much her writing means to me. She just writes in a very stream of consciousness way, and all her books include discussions of mental illness, and also all her books are queer. The main characters are always lesbians, and these books just mean so much to me. I feel like I've never read anything that talks about mental health in a way that feels so relatable to me. So this one was a little too relatable because it is about our main character Darcy, who is a librarian, and she recently went through a mental breakdown because she found out that her ex-boyfriend passed away. And so yeah, it was a lot. The librarian representation in this book was crazy accurate. You can definitely tell that Emily Austen knows what she's talking about, because I've read books where the main character is a librarian and I feel like no one has really captured, I mean, obviously like other librarians' experiences will be different than mine. I feel like no one has captured it the way Emily Austen has, because whenever I tell people I'm a librarian, the answer I get is almost always, oh my God, that must be such a chill job. Oh my God, you must get to read all day. And I'm like, no, actually it's very stressful. Like dealing with patrons, because people come into the library and like, don't get me wrong, I love being a librarian. I'm very proud to be a librarian. People come into the library and just think they can do a number of things. There is a patron in this book who plugs in her crock pot in the bathroom and starts cooking meat, and she has to tell her you can't cook meat in the library bathrooms, and the patron is like, why not? And that is exactly the type of thing that happens in a public library. So I felt very seen by the librarian representation in this book. And also just like, it's hard because, you know, the reason I wanted to become a librarian is because I love helping people and I love being around books. And I'm pretty sure she says those exact words in this book, but there's so many other things that you have to deal with as a librarian. It's not just helping people. You just really have to deal with a lot of difficult people and people with different opinions than you, and it is hard. And you know, this book also discusses grief. Again, I feel like Emily Austen writes mental health in a way that just means a lot to me. So I loved this book. It was 5 stars, of course, and it's not my favorite of her books, but I think I would put it, for me, I think it goes We Could Be Rats, Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead, this one, and then Interesting Facts About Space. But I would love to reread Interesting Facts About Space because that was the first one I read and I don't think I appreciated it enough. So anyways, love this. Highly recommend Emily Austen. Check trigger warnings before you read one of her books because, like I said, talks heavily about mental health and stuff like that. So yeah, but I love this. I knew I was gonna love it and I did. Okay, I need to pick up the pace a little bit, but now we're on to March. So the first book that I finished in March was The Possession of Alba Diaz by Isabella Cañas. And this was another one where I had a bit of trouble getting through because I found it a little boring. And I hate to say that because Isabella Cañas's writing is so stunning. Like, I love her writing. It was really the story and the characters in this book that I didn't really care about. I mean, this is a possession story and maybe I'm just not a possession girly. And also I found the characters, like, they kind of just fell in love because they were there. That's how I felt. Like, I didn't really feel any chemistry between them. It just kind of felt like he met her and he was like, that's a pretty lady, and now I'm in love with her. Like, that's how it just kind of felt to me. So I really don't have much to say about this book, and I don't really want to talk badly about it because I love Isabel Cañas's writing and so many people have loved this, so I'm definitely in the minority here. But I think this just wasn't the book for me. I definitely preferred Vampires of El Norte to this one, but I gave this one 3 stars because I don't think it's a bad book by any means. It just was not for me. Oh my god, the next book I don't even want to talk about. I don't want to talk about this book because I just, like, I don't have good feelings towards it. It is called Abundance by Ezra Klein and Derek Thompson, I think. And this is like, what is it even about? When I tell you I gained nothing from this book, I listened to the audiobook and the authors narrate the audiobook. They were not good at it. Like, they were just speaking like 2 dude bros who think they know everything, and I just did not feel this was accessible for anyone. It is essentially talking about, well, I thought this book was about climate change, and it kind of is, but it is mainly about how we need to invent more things to make the world a better place, and we're not taking risks about our ideas, and we're not bringing new ideas forward in order to make the world a better place. But also this was very American focused. I don't know that much about American politics. I feel like I know enough to keep up with things going on in the world, but like, there was just so much of this book that was not at all interesting to me. I didn't think it was written very well. Like, this is written for like poli-sci graduates. I just did not enjoy it at all. I gave it 2 stars instead of 1 because I feel like there must be some merit to this book. I just didn't really see it, but anyway, whatever. I really didn't like it. Highly recommend any other book on the topic. There must be better books out there. This like literally did nothing for me. Then a very different book I read was Keeping 13 by Chloe Walsh. This is the 2nd book in the Boys of Tommen series. So this follows the same couple as the first book, Binding 13, which are Johnny and Shannon. And this one, it's such an, I always have a hard time talking about these books because I don't really like the writing, but somehow Chloe Walsh gets me to care about these characters so much. Like, these books are long. This one was 650 pages, I think. These books are really long. Do they need to be this long? No, but because they're so long, what they do is I just get so attached to these characters. Even when they're being so stupid, you learn about what they've been through and their trauma, and all these characters have trauma. Especially Shannon. She deals with an abusive father, and this book picks up right where the last book ended off, which was in a very like dangerous place. So huge trigger warnings for abuse and also other topics, drug use. I'm sure I'm forgetting some things. Mention of sexual assault, like check the trigger warnings before you go into this series. It's hard for me to say I like these books because I don't think they're well written, but there's just something about them that makes me want to keep reading them. Like, am I going to continue the series? Probably. So I gave this a 3.5, which I think is what I also gave Binding 13. I think I did prefer Binding 13 to this book, but the next book follows Joey and Aoife, and I'm very interested and also scared to be in Joey's perspective. So we'll see how that goes. But like, do I recommend this series? I feel like if you want to read the series, you would have already read it. Like, I don't think I'm the person that's gonna get you to read the series. So I don't know, like, yeah, I'll continue it, but it's not necessarily something I recommend. I don't know, I have such a hard time talking about these books, but like, I'm gonna keep reading them. Okay, next, I finally read Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I feel like a lot of people have been reading this recently because the movie just came out and is still in theaters. So I read this and I ended up finishing it the day I was going to see the movie. So I was fresh from finishing the book when I saw the movie, which I actually think was a bit to the detriment of the movie, because instead of just enjoying it the whole time, I was like, that's not what happened, that's not what happened. So I would really like to see the movie again. I mean, I still love the movie, but I think I would have loved it more if I was a bit separated from the book. But if you somehow don't know, this is about an astronaut named Ryland Grace who wakes up on a spaceship in space, and he has amnesia. He doesn't remember why he's there. He doesn't know the people who are also in the spaceship but who happen to be dead. He doesn't know who they are. He doesn't know what his mission is. And then throughout the book, he slowly gets his memory back. He remembers that the sun is essentially dying and it's kind of up to him to figure out what's going on. And then he meets an unexpected thing in space. And if you somehow haven't been spoiled for this book or the movie, I still don't want to. I mean, I feel like at this point it's kind of hard not to know the spoiler, but I do think it's better if you don't know exactly what happens. So yeah, I thought this was great. I love Andy Weir's writing. However, I don't think anything will beat The Martian for me. So this was a 4.5. I also gave the movie a 4.5. I do prefer the book, but I would like to see the movie again. I do think overall they did a very good job with the movie. I just need to separate it a bit more from the book because I think it wasn't a good idea to see it the same day I finished the book, because everything was so fresh in my mind and I was like, that's different, that's different. So yeah, but I still love this. I love how Andy Weir balances really funny situations with really like heartbreaking and emotional situations. And also, like, I always find his science-y talk very accessible for someone who does not know much about science. I did find it a bit harder to understand in this than in The Martian, but like I said, nothing is gonna beat The Martian for me. So this was still a 4.5, and I am so glad I finally read it because I have owned it, I think, since it came out. And yeah, I'm glad I finally read it. And then the next one I read was This Could Be Us by Kennedy Ryan. This is the second book in, I think the series is called Skyland, the Skyland series, but this is like the sequel companion book to Before I Let Go. And this one I loved. I loved so much. I loved Soledad, who is the main character, but most of all, I loved Judah. Judah Cross, what a man. So Soledad is one of Yasmin's friends. You saw her a bit in the first book, and in the first book she is married. She has 2 kids or 3, no, she has 3 daughters, and you can already tell that her husband is a piece of shit. Like, he is just not a good person, and at the beginning of this book he does something so bad, yeah, very bad, puts her in a pretty awful position, and she is kind of left to deal with the aftermath of what he has done, and she has to figure out a way to take care of herself and her family. And actually Judah Cross is like kind of the person, well, he has a connection to what happened with her husband, but like he's good, he's a good person. He didn't like cause anything, he just, I don't want to say what it is, but he's involved somehow. So what I really liked about this book is that, like, they're both clearly very attracted to each other the moment that they meet, but it took like almost a year for them to actually like connect and start like being really interested in each other, because Soledad really needed the time after what happened with her now ex-husband to kind of figure out what direction she wanted her life to go in now, because everything, like her whole life has changed now, and she just does not have the emotional capacity to enter another relationship. And I really like how the book focused, like put Soledad first and focused on what she needed to do to provide for herself, for her kids, before exploring a possible relationship with Judah. And Judah was just so patient. He was so patient, but he's so into her. He is just yearning for her. And he also has an ex-wife. He has 2 kids who are both autistic, and I really loved the autistic representation in this book. I just thought this was so great. It was so great. I gave it 5 stars. I did like it more than Before I Let Go. I just love their relationship. I love Kennedy Ryan's writing. I love how realistic these characters feel and how they deal with their problems. It just feels very realistic, and this one wasn't like quite as sad as Before I Let Go, but it definitely still packed an emotional punch. So I'm very excited. I have not read the 3rd book yet, which I think is called Can't Get Enough, and that follows their other friend Hendrix. So I'm very excited for her story, but I haven't gotten to that one yet. But I really love this. It was 5 stars. Okay, and we just have a few more. So the next one is Are You Mad at Me by Meg Josephson. And when I heard of this book and saw the title, I knew I had to read it, because this is a question that constantly goes through my mind. Is everyone mad at me? Does everyone hate me? You know, whatever. And this is definitely a book, if you are a people pleaser, I definitely think you should pick up this book, because it is like Meg Josephson went into my brain and was like, Darian, I'm gonna write you a book. Like, she kept bringing up, so she is a therapist, and she kind of like created characters that are pulled from her actual clients, but like she's not going to share her actual client stories. So she kind of like took her client stories and then created like hypothetical person out of those stories. But some of the clients that she talks about, I'm like, this is me. They're talking about me right now. So I just thought this was really well written, really accessible. Meg Josephson also narrates the audiobook, and I loved her voice, like both literally her voice, but also just her voice in writing. I thought it was great. I also gave this 5 stars, and I definitely would like to get a physical copy so that I can annotate it, because there was so much in this book that I felt really just pertained to me. So I mean, this is a very personal book for me. Like, I wouldn't recommend this to everybody. I think if you struggle with people pleasing, you could probably get something out of this book, but like, this was just a great book for me personally. Like, if someone doesn't like this book, I don't care, because it was so great for me and my life and who I am as a person. So I had to give it 5 stars, and if she ever writes another book, I will definitely be reading it. I also followed her on Instagram now, and like, I just want to be her friend. But like, also my personal therapist. I don't know. And then now we're gonna talk about the 3 books that I've read so far in April. So the first one was A Forgery of Fate by Elizabeth Lim, and this book was so surprising to me. I didn't really know what it was about, and I also really wasn't on my radar. I read it for a video, and I'm so glad I read it, because I thought it was such a fun time. You're following our main character. What is her name? Is it True? I think her name is True, and I think about 5 years ago her father went missing and he is presumed dead, but she has always kind of believed that he is not dead. She has 2 sisters and her mother, and she essentially provides for her whole family by forging paintings by like famous painters. And she works with this other guy that I don't remember his name, but they work together to sell these forged paintings. And then one special thing about her painting is that when she paints, she can paint the future. And so this comes in handy because she meets this king. Is he a king or a prince? I forget. But she meets like the dragon prince or something, and his name is, it starts with an E. I don't remember his name, but she meets him and they realize that they can help each other because she needs money for her family, and also a way to find out if her father is still alive, and he needs a way to take down the actual Dragon King, who is his grandfather, who is a tyrant essentially on his kingdom, and so he brings her back to his kingdom. They get fake married. Well, they get real married, but they don't know each other. It's a fake marriage. But then they catch feels and it's great. But anyways, he brings her back to his kingdom, which is underwater, and most of the book takes place in this underwater kingdom, and there's talking turtles and there's mer people, and it's just like great. I had no idea. Also, our love interest is half dragon. It's just very cool. It's very unique. I haven't read a book like it, and I just had so much fun with it. I ended up giving it a 4.25 because I don't think it's a perfect book, but the romance was just so fun. And it was just a fun, like that's the main word that comes to my mind when I think of this book, is fun. It's just such a fun book. So highly recommend if you still read YA fantasy. I haven't read it in a while, but this was like, oh my god, it was so good and it was so fun. Okay, we're almost there. The next book I read, which I don't really have much to say about, but that is Hot Chocolate on Thursday by Michiko Aoyama. This is the same author as What You Were Looking For Is in the Library, except I have not read that book, but I have read this book and it was just fine. It is I guess a short story collection about each story is a different character who has some sort of connection to this cafe called the Marble Cafe, and you're just following each character. Nothing really happens. There's not really a plot, and I know this is considered healing fiction, which is usually very cozy with like an element of just like following people throughout their daily lives, but nothing happens. Like literally nothing happens. I didn't really feel like I got anything from this book. I finished it. At this point it was like a week or two ago, and I barely remember any of the stories. I don't know. It was just kind of a nothing book for me. I gave it a 2.75 because I don't think it's bad, but it just like gave me nothing. So I would like to try her other book, What You Were Looking For Is in the Library, because I've heard a lot of great things about that. But if you're interested in this one, I don't necessarily recommend it unless you're looking for like a really cozy book where nothing happens. Then maybe you can try this one out. And then finally, the most recent book I finished was The Dream Hotel by Layla Lalami, and this is a dystopian sci-fi taking place in this future where we have developed the technology to track people's dreams, and by analyzing people's dreams we can predict when someone is about to commit a crime. And so if people are considered dangerous because they think they're about to commit a crime, these people are detained in this facility, and they're always told that they're only going to be there for 3 weeks. This rarely happens because the people running the center always create new rules that the detainees cannot follow because it's impossible. So we're following our main character, Sada, who has been detained, and she has been there now for almost a year at this point, and she is pretty fed up with living her life this way. She has 2 young kids that she is missing them growing up. She has a husband who she misses, and so she kind of starts to try to find a way to get out of here. I loved the premise of this book more than the execution. I thought there were just too many side characters. I kept getting them confused with each other, and there was also a part of the book where we randomly followed another character, and I still don't quite understand what the point of that was. Like I guess I get it, but I didn't think it was really necessary, and I found the ending of the book underwhelming. So I thought this could have been a great book, but it was just a good book for me. I ended up giving it a 3.5 because like by no means is this a bad book. I think it has a lot of important things to say, and it reminds me a lot of certain things going on in America today. It's just like I thought the premise was more interesting than the actual execution. Okay, so those are the 20 books that I've read so far in 2026. Maybe I'll wait. I won't wait till there's 20 books to talk about for the next reading wrap up, because that was a lot and I feel like I've been sitting here for a long time. But let me know if you've read any of these books, what you thought about them, or if you had similar thoughts to me or different thoughts, or if you have any recommendations based on any of the books I talked about in this video. I would love to know. If you watched till the end, what should we leave? If you watched till the end, leave a cat emoji for Is This a Cry for Help? This is based on Emily Austin's cat. Like her real cat, by the way. So yeah, leave a cat emoji if you watch till the end. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon with another video soon. Bye!